We're now going to talk about Chapter 11 in the appendix, how to price the bond. This is probably the most important part of it if you really are interested in investing. So the three important things I need to know is what is the face value of the bond? Let me get my little thing out here. What's the face value of the bond? The periodic interest rate. This is the contract interest rate and the market rate. These are the three things we always need to know. And in order for an investor to know how much to pay, they're going to need to we're going to use something called the present value of the bond's future cash receipts. And let me explain what that means. The present value uses what we call the time value of money concept. And so the present value is, it asks myself, that $100,000 that I'm going to get in 5 years, what is it worth today? That's considered the present value. The other concept is called future value. If I put $100,000 away today for a certain amount of money, interest rate, what would be the future value of that deposit? So we're going to use this time value of money concept to understand how to price the bond. We're going to use mostly the present value. And so this is the present value, and the future value is if I put this money away today, $1,000, at 10%, in 1 year, it's going to be worth $1,100. So the $1,000 today, the $1,000 today put away at 10%, the future value is $1,100. But the $1,100 I would get in a year, the present value will be the $1,000. So I hope you understand this. So this is called present value and future value. So this chart helps this next one here. So the thing of it is, the present value of $1,000. So if I'm going to get $1,000 in 1 year and it's going to give me a 10%, today the present value is worth only this. So this is called the present value of an amount to be received in 1 year. If I look at 2 years, if I'm going to get $1,000 in 2 years, what is it worth today? It's only worth this. And there's an actual table that shows me how to do this multiplication. So there's two tables, and I don't want you to be confused. And we're going to use both tables. They're both present value tables. And so this is called the present value of $1 at compound interest. So this is the present value of what I'm going to get in the future. Across the top are percents. Down the sides are periods. Now remember, I've been talking to you about periods. Periods are the contract in years times how frequently I pay interest. So a 5-year bond paid twice a year is really 10 periods. So I would use this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my multiplier. So I'm going to figure out what periods is 10% or 10 periods. Now, if I'm going to offer you 10% for the whole year, but I'm going to pay you interest twice a year, that really means that each time I pay you will be 5%. So if whatever percent, by the way, it's the market rate interest that you take to the chart. The market rate, not contract. Contract rate is used to calculate the interest payment. Market rate goes to the chart. So if 10% is for the whole year, actually, I think our market rate was 12%. 12% is for the whole year, and I pay semi-annually, then really I'm going to take 12% and divide it by twice a year, and I'm going to use 6% at 10 periods. And I'll use this multiplier, and I'll show you what I'm going to do in a minute, okay? So up here is market rate for the whole year divided by how often I pay interest. Down here is contract term multiplied by how often I pay interest. So there's two charts. This is called present value of $1, and this will be to calculate for the principal. Now the interest is going to use something called present value of an annuity. An annuity is nothing more than a series of equal cash payments. So every time I pay you the interest, that's considered an annuity. So we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to use present value of annuity. If I'm going to get $100 every year for interest, at the end of year 1, that $100 I'll get next year, today it's only worth this. If I'm going to get $100 at the end of 2 years, today it's only worth this. So this is called the present value of annuity, and I have a different chart for that. So guys, you have to be very careful that you're on the right chart. And when I show you on my next video on my handout sheet that I've made, it breaks it down. So this is present value of annuity, different than the other one. It has the word annuity in. So this is only for the interest payments. So again, periods, if it's a 5 years and paid twice a year, my periods will be 10. If it's 12%, and remember, this is market interest rate. I can't say that enough. Market rate is always used to calculate this. 12% divided by the twice a year payments means 6%. So what I'll do is I'll look for this multiplier right here for the annuity. Okay, so we're going to figure out how to calculate the selling price of the bonds using those charts. Remember, market rate goes to the table. Okay, so here's my data. This is a $100,000 bond. Contract rate is 12%. 5 years is the term, paid twice a year. So my periods would be 5 years times 2, which is 10 periods. Okay, and if I believe correctly, my market rate on this is going to be 12%. So contract rate equals market rate. When they equal, my selling price is $100,000. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you this calculation on the next slide, and then we're going to go back to the tables that I shown you, okay? So the first formula would be the present value of the face amount. So it's going to be $100,000 times my multiplier. And the second one is present value of the annuity. Remember, the annuity is the interest payment of $6,000 times this multiplier. So let's go back to the charts. Sorry, guys. Here's the first chart. Okay, so remember, 10 periods, it was 12%, but paid twice a year, so that will only be 6%. So 6%, 10 periods, and here's the multiplier for the first one. I'm going to take this number, 0.55839, times the face value of the $100,000. Okay, plus I'm going to add it to the present value of the annuity, which is the $6,000, and I'm going to go 12% divided by 2 because twice a year, and 10 periods. So I'm going to do 6,000 times this number, 7.3609, and that brings us to this. So here we are, 100,000 times this number equals this. So this is the present value of the principal or face amount plus the present value of the interest. The $6,000 is my interest payment. That was my multiplier. When I multiply it together, I'm going to add it together, and this is what I'm going to get. I do have a separate little handout sheet that I will be posting that you will be able to use. So this is when contract equals market. I'm going to sell this for $100,000. So now we're going to change up a little bit, okay? Remember, we looked at when I sold it at a discount. Remember when I sold it for $96,406? We're going to look at what happened there. So in this situation, my market rate is 13%. My contract is 12%. So here's what happened. Let's go back. I have the same numbers here, but different multipliers. Okay, so hold on, guys. I'm going to go back quickly to my tables. Now this is, okay, so here's present value of the compound. Now periods are not going to change. It's still 10 periods, but now market is 13%, contract is 12%. But market rate is what you take. So market rate of 13% divided by 2 will give me 6.5%. So down here, I'm going to take the multiplier, 6.5%, 10 periods, 0.53273 times 100,000 plus the same thing here, 6.5% times my 10 periods times the 7.1883, and that, let's go back up to here. Hold on, guys. I don't mean to confuse you. So here's my 100,000 times the multiplier at 6.5% and 10 periods, and it says it right here. And here's my interest payment, my multiplier, 10 period, 6.5%. When I add them together, this is the selling price of the bond. So this shows me how to price the present value of the bond. Okay? This is going to be the hard part, but will put up my template and we will plug in numbers and I'll show you how that's going to work. Okay? So don't worry, we will get through this. Next, we're going to look at market rate is 11%. So remember, market rate is less than contract rate. I'm selling them at a premium. So market rate is 11%. So now what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go back again to the slides here. Sorry. So 11% divided by 2 will be 5.5%, still 10 periods. So I'm going to take this multiplier times my face value. And the same thing here, this multiplier times my interest payments to calculate it when I'm selling it at a premium. Here we go. 10 periods times 5.5%. There's my multiplier from the first table times 100,000 plus 10 periods at 5.5% from my second table. So that's how much I will sell it for when I'm selling it at a premium. Okay? So this kind of covers how to price the bonds. My last video will be a template that I actually have. I'll actually also put the charts in there and we'll look at one-on-one and we'll talk about that. So this is all for Appendix 1 and the next video will be an actual template that I've made up and will be available to you, and I'll have the charts in there so you can understand how they work.